All right, hey, people are hopping on. Be sure to give us a shout out where you're listening from. And throughout today's broadcast, we'd love to hear your best practices of how do you really connect when you're not speaking your spouse's love language or you're trying. You know, I know that there have been different times where you were trying desperately to speak my love language and I just couldn't hear it.
Well, in the early days of our marriage, it was a big challenge, because we both came from, like most people, completely different backgrounds, with different life experiences, and clearly we spoke different love languages, and that's very common, by the way, in relationships. So if you're wondering what we're talking about, we'll get into more of it more deeply here in just a minute. But the bottom line is that I was trying so hard to make you feel my love, and you weren't in a place,
I wasn't healthy at all.
you weren't in a place where you could actually receive it, and so whatever I did, you felt like was manipulative,
or
that there was some
motive.
Right, exactly. And so we struggled in this area for a long time, and then I think through Dr. Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages, we have like all of his books. If you don't have the 5 love languages, I'm just telling you, it is every single marriage couple, every single dating couple for that matter.
Right.
Every single person on the planet, actually, even if you're not in a relationship, needs to have that book. It's the truth.
I wonder if Dr. Gary Chapman will pay us a commission for that.
Well, he's been gracious to let us
he
interview him and have many conversations with him. And so, anyway, why don't we jump into...
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, though, of like when I think about speaking one another's love languages. I spent a year over in Ireland. And you'd think that being in Ireland, they speak
English,
and we speak English. So you'd think, however, I had to say, you don't speak American over here. I'm just because there was this time I was talking with this farmer, and the farmer would go, "It's a bad day," and I said, "You need a Band-Aid?" He goes, "No, it's a bad day," and I'm like, "What?" And finally, his kids were laughing so hard because I could not understand what he was saying. They said, because I was like, "You need a Band-Aid?" And he's like, "No, it's a bad day." And so it took them interpreting for me to be able to understand. And so...
And that's speaking the same language.
That is speaking the same language.
Some people don't think that I speak American either.
So what's so funny is that sometimes in your marriage relationship, you're trying to speak your spouse's love language. You're trying to connect. You want that relationship. You want the happily ever after. But the truth is you are not connecting on any part. So today's broadcast, again, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to speak one another's love language in a way that one another can experience.
You're going to love the tips. I'm just telling you. They're really good. We put some thought into this week in preparation to speak to y'all. So...
I think that before we even dive into some of the specifics, and you're going to love, because we came up with some really creative ones.
They're good. They're really good.
There's this place, too, though, that sometimes we just don't feel like even trying anymore. And so to express our spouse's love language, we have to come back and get rid of that you've lost that love and feeling kind of moment and really zero in to try again.
And it happens. You know what I mean? Look, listen, wherever you're at in your marriage relationship or whatever, there are seasons and time periods when you go through where it's not necessarily all that ooey gooey thing, In fact, it comes much, much less naturally in some seasons of life than it does other. And that's just a fair case. We have an awesome, awesome marriage. I think, honestly, I wished everyone had a marriage that's as good as ours. And even in saying that, there are times when love is an intentional
it's
choice.
It's a decision. It's a choice.
Indeed.
Time magazine actually put out a great definition, and I wrote it down just to make sure I said it right. But in essence, what they said is love should not be seen as a feeling, but an acted emotion. To love is to feel and act lovingly. So they equated it. They had a great article. It was all about parents and how parents express love. And there are times, right, when we don't feel like doing something. I think most of us do a lot of things that we don't feel like.
Whoops, we're having our life here.
Things like, driving the speed limit. I know Greg really challenges has challenges with that. He doesn't like to drive the speed limit. There's times when I want to get in that HOV lane at illegal times. And so we act in a way that is the right thing to do, even when we don't necessarily feel like doing that.
In day-to-day life, yeah.
Right. And so love is so much more than just this ooey gooey feeling. It really is a decision. It's fostered, right, to act in love and to show and demonstrate love.
So what do you think we ought to do if maybe we just don't feel like it?
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, I know that.
Are you in there?
Yeah, I was thinking.
Will you play along?
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it. Like right now, I don't feel like acting in love towards him, but we're on camera, so I better. No, it's I think it's coming back to really understanding what I really do want. And I really do want connection. Mm-hmm. I really do want peace in my home. And so what I love is that love is doing something for someone else. But what's great about it is when I do that love for Greg, or when Greg chooses to love me, even if we don't feel like demonstrating love towards one another, we reciprocate, and what happens is we really do benefit. So the seeds that we sow, we get to reap, which actually there was a, what's that guy, Robert Cialdini or something? I can't remember how you say it.
Yep.
But he talked about the psychology of love, and he talked about the rule of reciprocation.
Yep.
And how, like, if I do something nice for you, or you do something nice for me, there's actually an innate thing in us that wants to reciprocate that. So if I act unbecoming, then I'm probably going to get that rule of reciprocation. And if I do something in love, or do something out of gesture of kindness just to serve you,
right,
then eventually, even if there's love that's cold in the household, I'm going to reciprocate what those seeds that I planted.
That part of it is a universal language. You can travel into countries that you don't speak their language at all, and you don't have the normal verbal communication that we're able to have. But if you bring a gift, it's really interesting that that someone always wants to reciprocate it. So I think, again, if we just start on the very fundamental levels of giving love and learning how to speak one another's language, as we head into kind of some of the specifics about the 5 love languages, that's just a great kind of, it's a great place of understanding to begin with, is what I'm trying to say.
So sometimes you may not feel like acting in love. If nothing else, do it from a selfish motivation that if you give the love,
you reap what you sow,
you're gonna
baby.
get
That's
it back,
biblical.
right? Yeah. If that can be the only motivation. The other thing is that sometimes it's like we really want to. It's not that we don't want to. It's that we get too busy to.
Absolutely.
And so being able to schedule that intentionality, to literally be able to make a list of ideas even, because let it be a go-to list of what you can do that will give strong emotional deposits in your relationship, and make those lists ahead of time so that you can come back to them in those busy seasons of life.
Which is actually something that we do periodically throughout the year. We'll take some time. We do these little retreats ever so often. Sometimes it's just an overnight at a hotel locally, just so that we can get out of the fury of the kids and just a different atmosphere. And we'll think about, okay, what do we need to do, and what do we need to write down to remember about our relationship, so that we can not only maintain our relationship, but maintain a thriving relationship. And again, like we said earlier, it takes more work in some seasons than others, but I do think that failing to plan is planning to fail. And so I think so often in marriage we get comfortable, whatever our state is, and we forget to kind of do some of the basics, and we become a little less intentional. And you probably heard us say it before, when you get comfortable, what happens is you get complacent. The 2 C's go together. Comfort and complacency walk hand in hand. And when that happens, then all of a sudden, we begin to drop balls that we don't really mean to drop, and things get away from us. So it's good to have some intentionality.
All right, so let's dive into some of the things that Gary Chapman highlights in his books. The very first one happens to be my love language. So
and
let's
figure it's the one we're going to cover first.
Sorry, yeah, I'm a little selfish in this way. But
whatever.
No, you do this really good, and thankfully, my love language comes natural to you. It seems like, or at least you've cultivated.
No, I think it's more natural to me.
I see you do it with our kids. I see you do it with other people. That you really are a person of affirming others. And so mine is words of affirmation. So I made a list. I made some ideas for you. If your spouse's love language is words of affirmation, encourage them. Tell them when they're doing something right. Express how they're exceptional. Look, when you think about words of affirmation, it really is the intent behind the words. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to comment. You said, what was that? Express how they're exceptional. But tell them when they do something right. Listen, even if your spouse's love language is not words of affirmation, I think the world could use a dose of catching people doing things right, rather than, what tends to be most of our tendency and what we lean towards is we can easily cite things that are wrong. So I want to encourage you this week, even now today, with your kids, with your spouse, with your co-workers, with everybody around you, to really be intentional to try to catch people doing things right and express and tell them what they did right. When you do that for me, then what it does is it lets me know what's working. It lets me know what you appreciate, which lets me know what I need to do more of.
Yep.
So continue on with your list.
Express a sincere compliment. When they do something right, let them know how much you appreciate it. So one of the things I love about Greg is he creeps on me. And so I love that. He is a creeper. He follows
I'm a
after.
Professional creeper,
You are,
in fact.
yeah. And so by creeping, what we mean is he actually, watches me. And sometimes I'll look up and I've been, really scrubbing the dishes or something, and he's just sitting there with this loving look, and I'm like, oh, my gosh. And he's loving on me, though. And so I love that about you.
I just would say, this is not in the notes by any stretch of the imagination or a plan, but if you don't creep on your spouse, I'm just going to tell you need to make it a practice.
I think we should do a 30-day challenge of creeping on your spouse.
I'm telling you, legit. Yeah. Seriously, here's what I'm saying. When I used to, I did this in the early days, it came much more naturally, but I have in recent years began to practice the discipline of creeping on my wife.
Yeah.
What do you mean, you say, Greg? That sounds odd. Here's what I mean when I say I'm creeping on my wife, and you need to creep on yours too. And if you're married to a husband, you need to creep on your husband, okay? Because what it does is I practice the discipline of observing you as a human being, a person. And I, after so many years, got comfortable with you just being my wife, and when I say that, what I mean is there's some sort of expectations that come along with that. There's some manner of routine. There's some manner. I've looked at this face every single day for over 22 years now, and I'm happy about that. But if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes we see the face, but we don't really see that person the way we used to see that person.
Right.
And so I want to encourage you, we need to do a whole live on that alone.
But
I'm
just
telling you, we really do. But creeping on your spouse. So when I'm looking at you like that, baby, I am taking in the essence of who you are as a person, as a human being. Someone who's over there maybe scrubbing those dishes, but with lots of different thoughts that are rolling around in your mind, Yep. And I'm just trying to just bask in that. And it causes me to have such an enduring love towards you in those moments. And I love doing it because I think it's part of a big part of what keeps our spark alive.
Yeah. Well, and I love your humor. I love your strength as a leader. So what I just demonstrated is really what we're encouraging you to do, and what Greg does
in words of affirmation.
In words of affirmation, right? If words of affirmation don't come natural, and it has to be more intentional, here's some great ideas. Take time and be intentional to write out little love notes of the things you appreciate, admire, or you wished you had more of, and start writing little sticky notes and hide them in unexpected places. That's another great way to give words of affirmation when maybe our words don't come as natural. And another great thing that we've began and that from our friends is writing these love notes of words of affirmation.
Yeah, Christine and Rudy did that.
Yep, with these markers, not permanent markers, but
you mess up a mirror in a heartbeat.
Don't do that. But the Expo, kind of those washable markers where you can write notes on your mirror, and then live into that of just encouraging your spouse with words.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
The next one, according to my notes, is quality time. Quality time. So, how many of y'all have the love language of quality time? You just love spending quality time with people that you love.
Right.
If you do, write that down there in the comments or let us know.
Yep. Yeah. So quality time. One of the things we'd encourage you to do is, man, think about a meaningful spot, someplace you guys both really enjoy, and go drive there. Talk together. We have a great conversation starters that if you text the word married, MARRIED, to this number 33777, text to that number the word married, then what'll happen is you'll actually get some conversation starters and some date night ideas that will help you to have quality time, because so often what quality time is to that person is where you're doing a shared activity. Maybe take a class together, cook together, set up a game night.
We need to do that.
Right?
We've been talking about doing a cooking class together like forever, and then our schedule got all busy. We need to look into
COVID
that.
hit, and Anyway, we won't go there. But travel somewhere new, explore. The idea is to have a concentrated focus time. It's that place where it's uninterrupted. Put your phone down. Have dinner together without the TV on or without your phone by you. Stop multitasking. Just, again, it's a distraction-free zone where you're spending one-on-one time talking. Good eye
Connecting.
contact. Yeah.
Connecting with one another. That's what quality time is all about. So check it out. Listen, I don't know if you got that or not, but if you've got a cell phone and you did not text married to 33777, you need to do so right now. I'm just telling you flat out, you need these conversation starters. They are awesome. When you get those, you're going to get them in a couple of different emails. Over the next few days and weeks, right? But they will help you have better, meaningful conversations with your spouse. So, again, text married to 33777. She does that spell out thing for me. I always have to disclose that because I can't spell socks.
To 33777. Text the word married and put in your email address, and you'll get the very first one pretty much immediately.
We used these recently, and because we work together 24/7 out of our home. We are in our office today, but usually we're in our home. And we talk about work a lot. And when we go on date night, inevitably, all of a sudden we're talking about work. When we, either that or we're talking about the kids. And sometimes, it's like, man, I want to be able to connect. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what can I ask her, to discover her? And so we used our own.
Recently, yep.
Yes. And we've used them on several date nights. And again, for those of you who love quality time, or even if you don't, this is still, you need to get them.
Great conversation starters.
They really are, yeah. And use them as conversation starters. You don't have to read every single question that's on the list.
Right.
Use them as starters, and then allow that to kind of kickstart and grease the skids for some additional thoughts and questions so that y'all can connect better
don't
together.
Accomplish the list. Don't go, okay, now we got to do this. It's choosing one or
Cram
two.
all of them in one date night.
Just choose one or two of them that will spark a good conversation.
All right. Next, I think we've got gifts.
Receiving gifts.
So the third love language.
This is probably one for both of us, honestly, that isn't necessarily high on our love language list, but I think the idea, again, behind it is to identify what's important to your spouse and let them know that you put thought into it. So it could be a big gift. It could be a small gift. The idea is, wow, I thought about you.
That's
that really
the key.
Is what it's all about.
It really is. And I love to be able to, even though it may or may not be Julie's love languages, but one of the things that I think sometimes little gifts mean more sometimes even than big gifts. Everybody loves to get big gifts. I mean, who doesn't love to get big?
Can I tell on you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an open book. What you got?
All right. So I always brag on Greg, but I got to tell you this one time. He totally unraveled me. This is just probably a few weeks ago, a couple months ago. And he unraveled me
Which
in one
time?
day. Yeah.
Unraveled is not a good thing for those of you who don't know.
No. And it was kind of one of those things where I chose to not act on any frustrations. You knew that you blew it and unraveled me. And what was so cool
I know where you're headed,
is you went to the gym, you worked out, and when you came back, he came back with this big tea, which I don't even like tea, but I like this kind of tea. And he knew this kind of tea that I liked, and I've been, so he got it from Racetrack, and he came back, and he got down on it, one hand and one knee, and he just kind of handed me the drink. And I started crying because what it let me know is like, look, I know I blew it. I know that I unraveled you, and I want you to know that I love you. And I think then you used your words, and you told me how awesome I was. But
Well,
then
I
it was the
apologize.
tea, because it was the thoughtfulness. You knew I wouldn't have had time to go out and get this, and you thought of me.
Fair enough. I did, and
Usually
the other
you're
thing.
awesome, though. You don't blow it.
well, it depends on what day you catch me. But the truth of the matter is that I also apologize because what I realized as I left, and I'm like, crap, I just dumped on her. I added a bunch of stress to her. I made her feel lesser than what she is, and what she deserves. And I don't know, like I was still a little bit off my square, but I told her, I said, you know what, I'm sorry for doing that. I really want to try to rebound in this day. Here's a peace offering. You know what I mean? I hope you'll accept this.
And I did.
Yeah, you did. And we rebounded. So what are some other
I want to
for
just
gifts?
read some. So thoughtfulness is the key. Surprise them with a small token, a gesture that lets them know that you thought of them and understand who they are. Here's some creative ideas. So create a favorite playlist for them. Order or send them lunch to work. Maybe pack their lunch and put a little love note in there. Purchase their favorite treat.
Right.
And put it in their lunch or leave it on their pillow or in their car. Unless it's chocolate, I wouldn't, and it's a hot day, don't do that. But again, it's thinking of them, understanding them, and letting them know, look, I appreciate you in a big or a small way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like, for instance, to get you, there's a couple of little mints and little candies, that you like, and we don't eat a lot of sweets and such, but I love being able to just bring
Sour
those
Patch
to
Kids
you
or
out of the clear blue.
Sour
You don't make a
Patch
big deal out of
straws.
it. By the way, for those of you giving the gifts, don't make a big deal out of it. Like, hey,
Look what I did for you.
Yeah,
No, it's not
right.
that.
And don't keep score when you do it. Just give it to them
Surprise.
and let them know that you love them, and this is an easy way for you to be able to communicate that to,
All right.
especially like receiving gifts.
We got two more, so let's speed through these.
Rock on, chick.
But acts of service. Again, little tasks, big tasks, errands, driving. Greg, you always drive the car for me. You open up my car door. Helping out with doing the dishes, washing the car, changing the baby's diaper, right? Cooking their, you're getting flashbacks. Cook their favorite meal. Maybe take them lunch, right, to surprise them. You can detail their car.
Mow the lawn. I think just, when it comes to acts of service, it comes down to what are the things that your spouse typically does or needs done or appreciates having done, and then just unexpectedly stepping in and doing those things, for them, or hiring somebody to do it. But
hire a maid.
Right? I mean, hire somebody to help with the house if it, there's seasons when again that you need to do that. And so I think for us, we just try to help one another with the chores. I try to hop up, and Julie typically handles laundry. We have each chores.
We each have, I do inside, he does outside.
More or less.
More or less, yeah.
More or less. And so anyway, just when you do it yourself, though, I think, and you can talk to your spouse about this if their love language is acts of service, but I think when you do it rather than when you hire it, it does make a difference. Now, if it's if somebody's busy and gives acts of service makes a big difference. Maybe if you go and take their vehicle to get the oil changed when that's due, or to get the vehicle washed or detailed, like you talked about, I think is a great act
Run
of service.
an errand for it. Make a cup of coffee for them, right? Those little things or bring them a fresh towel when they're getting out of the shower.
I love bringing you a fresh towel when you're getting out of the shower, girl. I'm just telling you.
Which brings us to the next love language, and we're going to skip physical touch. Now, here's what I want to zero in on. I express love with physical touch, and I think it's key to understand that physical touch doesn't just mean sex. Right? I used to think that physical touch, your love language is sex. Great. It's not, it could be. It's part of it.
Part of it, yeah.
But when expressing love with physical touch, it's a hug. it's a kiss. So if your spouse love language, it's the stroking of the hair. If your spouse's love language is that, instead of just saying, see ya, have a great day at work, get up, give them a hug. Give them a little pat on the butt, right? Or a kiss on the cheek. Because all of those things, right now my hand is on Greg's leg, and just it's the gentle, soft nudge of brushing up and being near, laying one another's head on one another's chest or across one another's laps. All of those things. My son is a physical touch. And so obviously there's, again, that's not sexual. That's just his love language of, I'm just trying to make the point.
Absolutely.
Of it is just, hey, I love you. You're awesome. It's just a quick touch that lets them know that you're near, that you care.
So here's the deal. I really like physical touch.
Yeah.
It is one of my top love languages. Interestingly, though,
you don't express it.
I do. Like I'll brush your hair, like a quick something like that. Like I like doing that because I know you like that, and I also I like that long term, like rubbing your back for a long time, like
it's work.
Right. It's not as natural for me. So I'm only saying this because, again, part of what we're talking about is speaking your spouse's love language when it doesn't come naturally, right? And so I'm just intentional about it, though. There's times that because I know that she appreciates touch, that I am very intentional about. I hold her hand. I stroke her hair, like she said. And at night when we're laying in bed and we're just kind of winding down, we're reading a book or, maybe watching some TV to wind down, I'll brush her hair like this.
Yeah, but you'll also, he'll lay across my lap, and that is just a soft touch as well of connection. And if you are married, let your toes touch underneath the sheets, right? I remember when we first got married, we would snuggle in and we'd fall asleep in one another's arms, and somewhere between there and now being 50, it's kind of like, okay, let's snuggle and then roll over.
It's hot.
It's hot. So every once in a while I let my toes or your toes touch again underneath the sheets, and it's just that affirmation of, I'm here with you. I love you. Yeah. I care about you. So, love, what else?
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, what do we have here on the final point?
I think it's just, if you're worn out, you've tried it before, and you think, I've just tried and it's never seems to work. Don't give up. Never, ever give up. God's intent for you and for your spouse is to stay connected. His intent is for you to know that one another love one another, that you respect one another, that you want to encourage. So put a little intentionality to it, a recommitment that this week, one way, I'm going to express love. I'm going to know what my spouse's love language is. So if you don't know what it is, take the quiz. There's a lot of free quizzes online. There are Dr. Gary Chapman's book. Get that book, find out, identify it. He actually has a book out for if you're a parent as well, for your kids to know what their love language is, and make it an intentional practice. Set reminders in your phone to, hey, express your spouse's love language. So if it doesn't come natural, you can build in that muscle memory, that intentionality by just choosing to demonstrate love, choosing to act in love.
I like it. I'm going to read this bottom point that we have here before we wrap up, and then I'd like to pray for everybody that's still on right now, if I may.
Give a shout out also. What is your love language?
Love may not come naturally when you're worn out. You've tried before. It doesn't produce the results that you've hoped for. I think we can all relate to that. I can relate to it. I know you can relate to it because there's been seasons when we struggled with it. If that's your struggle, remember, practice makes perfect. Continue to talk about it. Understand one another. Understand seasons. Sometimes when we get in seasons, we think that the season that we're in is a life sentence that we're in.
Right.
And life, I don't care how good your relationship is or your business or whatever, there's seasons.
Right.
And so don't define a season as being a sentence, a lifelong
so good.
sentence. So ask, how can I serve you today?
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, just asking your spouse. I like that one.
You like that one?
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think it's a basic that we sometimes forget. How can we for a long time, intentionally in the morning time, ask one another, how can I serve you today? How can I best serve you today? Yeah. You're really good about this.
Well, but, and asking, if you don't know, just say, how can I demonstrate? My intent is to demonstrate love to you. So how can I demonstrate that? How can I show you what my heart is? Because I feel like, you can even say, I feel like I've been disconnected and I want to serve you. So how can I do that best?
Final encouragement here, thank you. Final encouragement here is expressing to one another what will make you feel loved. Yeah. When do you feel the most respected? When do you feel the most loved? When do you feel the most connected with me? Is a great question to ask your spouse. Yeah. What can I do to make your life easier? Then, above all, listen. Don't flare up. Don't bow up. You've got to control yourself. Sometimes things come off offensively. Don't allow yourself to be offended. Refuse to be offended when you do this. And just simply listen for understanding at that point. And then don't forget God. Look up and let him help you, and don't forget to ask him. If you haven't already done so, again, we want to remind you to text MARRIED to 33777 so we can give you some date night ideas and some conversation starters. With that, if it's okay with you, I'm going to wrap up in prayer and pray for you.
All right,
let's
do it.
Father, thank you so much for this time. Thank you for those who were able to tune in and listen, both now live and for those who will tune in and listen to the recording later on. Father, I just pray blessing over each one of these that are represented here, God. Blessings in all corners of their life. But God, particularly right now, that you would, in a divine manner, in a supernatural manner, that you would speak to them in a way that they would know how to speak their spouse's love language, their kids' love language, so that they could begin to affirm one another, God, and to feel one another's love in a new and fresh way, that we would not get comfortable and then get complacent, but that we would keep that spark alive.
Yes.
And so we're grateful, Father, that you hear our prayers. Amen. And with that, I expect to hear some testimonies from some folks who were reminded of a basic today and somewhere along this week that you speak to them and encourage them on how to love our spouses better. Amen. And to receive that love better, both from you, Lord, and from one another. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hey, thank you all for tuning in. And whether you're listening live or whether you're listening on YouTube or any of the other channels that we might happen to be on, we're grateful for you. Make sure and make a comment on any of these social media outlets and such, and let us know what your biggest takeaway was from our time together today. Hey, God bless you. Yeah.
And if you were blessed, we'd encourage you. There's so many marriages that are struggling right now in this season. Would you share this forward and let them know why they should listen in? If there was something in particular that really ministered to you, take time right now to share it forward. Let's spread the love and encourage our couples and families. Man, we're in this together, and God still is on the throne. And he wants our love to thrive.
Yes, he
Amen.
is.
All right. Thanks for
joining
us.
Catch you next week.